Oh, this movie knows where its bread and butter is. Yeah, it's like first you see like a beautiful blonde woman like getting half naked, getting her titties grabbed, and it's just like, okay, well, we know where our bread is buttered. Yeah.
Well, I gotta wonder this: how did the setup there happen? What happened? Did the crazed miner just like go into a bar and just pick up this woman and just said, "Hey, come back to my murder mine shaft, where I'm going to show you my actual shaft"? Is that what happened?
Don't point out the horrible flaws in this plot, Brian. But but yeah, it's it would be like if you brought a date home and you're like, yeah, this is my bedroom. Now let's go down to my unfurnished, radon-ridden basement to have sex. It's like, wow, it looks like you have a king-size bed with silk sheets. No, we're gonna have sex on the radiator in the dark part of the basement.
There's a lot of rust on that radiator, so I hope you had your tetanus shot.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh, my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Conn, teacher, my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
Come on, Amber. You act like you don't even want to do it down in this coal mine. Hey, what was that?
Oh, it's gonna be that kind of episode today.
Happy fuck day, everyone.
Happy fuck. Is that where you're going with happy fuck day? You're not even going with Valentine's Day. You're just going happy fuck day.
It's a day for lovers.
Lovers and murder. And also chocolate.
Yeah.
Like I think this day, I'd say Valentine's Day comes in like second in candy eating. Like obviously Halloween is the Mac Daddy.
There's a lot of candy at Easter.
Yeah, I know that, but not nearly the amount of candy at chocolate. Yeah. Like in Valentine's Day. Like I really believe that there's just because that's what everyone goes to, right? That's the first thing you go to. You go to the chocolate. Yeah. And then, if your significant other likes flowers, which my wife hates them. Like I already know, never, ever, ever get my wife flowers. She's already like, why would you do that?
So she doesn't like that Bruno Mars song, like I should have bought you flowers. That's all I'm gonna sing.
No, if I did it, dude, like my wedding, you remember this? We had wooden flowers.
Which will last 1,000 years.
They will last
longer
1,000
regular
years.
flowers.
But no, like we both, and I honestly, like I'm not really a fan of flowers to begin with either. But just I think they're kind of a meh gift. They last for like 5 days and they're dead.
There's a comedian, I can't remember his name, but he's on WDVE here in Pittsburgh. Yeah. And he had a routine where he and his soon to be wife were getting married at Phipps Conservatory.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, we need a florist. And he's like, we're getting married at Phipps. Bring scissors.
It's true though. Yeah. It's true. My brother got married at Phipps. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty place, but yeah, you're right. You don't need a fucking florist. Just go in what they call, the weeds area. That's not even weeds, I guarantee you.
It just look everywhere.
Yeah. But this isn't an episode about flowers. This is an episode about murder and love triangles and horny teens. Do we really want to call them teens though? Because they really all look like they're pushing 40.
It's that beautiful early 80s thing where it's man. Yeah, we're just a bunch of rowdy young teenagers who are 42 years old.
Yeah. But this week, in honor of the holiday, we had a couple movies that we could have picked for celebrating the Valentine's Day. Or as John now calls it, fuck day. And that is, of course, picking the 1981 classic from the Great White North. Talking Canada, My Bloody Valentine. We're not talking the band. I don't really care for them.
And we're not talking the 09 remake.
We're not talking the 09 remake, which I do want to mention a little bit about it because that was filmed in our backyard, quite literally. And we know a lot of people who were in that movie. But yeah, we're talking about what I believe this is Quentin Tarantino's favorite slasher movie.
Of course it is.
Of course. Yeah. But yeah, we're talking about the 1981 Canadian slasher film by George Mihalka, and it is a fun romp
Well,
through the minds.
the first thing that like comes to mind, Brian, with this stuff is I can't decide if there's something comforting and soothing about how all of these movies are exactly the same, even though they're from different filmmakers in different years, or if that should be something that's derided. Like it's the same plot. Like some crazy guy did something horrible years ago that affected the town, but he got locked up. So they decide to like bring back the event, but now they don't know if he's escaped and killings start to happen again. It's like, this is the plot of 95% of these movies.
Okay. First of all, to be fair to this movie, this is produced by it was distributed by Paramount Pictures. So this is the same studio that put out not Nightmare on Elm Street, but Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Like the year before. So like Friday the 13th, that's the original. that's the original holiday.
Well, you know what Saturday Night
slasher.
Live like? Yeah. Like Saturday Night Live has like some of the reoccurring sketches that they just hit all the same notes, and they must have like a template, almost like a Mad Libs, like the cheerleaders back in the 90s and all that.
Yeah.
I wonder if they just had a template for Friday the 13th and they just like crossed out Jason and put Mind Killer, like,
well, they probably were just like, hey, you know what's making a lot of money, this Friday the 13th shit. How fast can we make another type of slasher movie with some blood and gore and craziness, and what holiday could we center it around? Oh, I don't know, Valentine's Day.
Which is so weird because this town is way too into Valentine's Day.
I want to talk about that first, okay? Because I don't know if we're going to go plot point by plot point on this one, because there's a lot of fun with this. But let's talk about Valentine Bluffs, okay? Let's talk about Valentine. I don't know any town that, out of all the holidays you could pick, that you pick Valentine's Day to lose your shit over.
It's like Christmas, suck a dick. Halloween, could take a shit. Thanksgiving, I'd rather die. Valentine's Day, well, that's the one day a year.
That's it. I mean, the only thing I can guess is like, they just like screwing. Like that's it. They all love that, and Valentine's Day gives them the opportunity to do that.
Maybe this town, it's
in the water.
It's sex purge. They can only have sex once a year. Like all sex is legal.
I mean, I'm not Canadian, so I don't know. But for my Canadian audience out there, are there other towns up there that just lose their shit over Valentine's Day? Maybe we should get our friend Kire on the line here eventually and just ask him, like, hey, what's it like up there? Do you guys just lose your shit over Valentine's Day? Because I don't get it. Like, I can understand St. Patrick's Day, and honestly, in Pittsburgh, we kind of lose our shit over St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. It's an excuse to get hammered. Yeah.
Well, like, I've been downtown right after the parade. Like, I've never been in the parade because I don't want to. But have you ever been downtown
just
after
once.
The parade? Oh man,
just once, yeah.
It is. If you want to see what a zombie apocalypse quite literally looks like, man, go to downtown Pittsburgh right after the St. Patrick's Day parade, and you will see some shit, my friend. You will see a lot of drunken zombies just wailing, and it's middle of the day. We're not talking nighttime. We're talking 12 o'clock in the afternoon. But like, I don't get why Valentine's Day is the be all end all for Valentine Bluffs.
Well, first off, it's called Valentine's Bluffs, but secondly, I think
I get that.
They said what holiday hasn't been taken yet.
Yeah,
and they went Valentine's Day, and they went, okay, this town's obsessed with Valentine's Day. And they went, but sir, does it make any sense? And he went, just make a movie, idiot, for idiots. And,
yes, just make a movie, idiots for idiots.
Do it for under 10 grand. What?
Okay. It'll make a lot of money. Looking at the box office numbers, it didn't do very well. So yeah, the town is run by morons and funded by, this is a funny thing. The town's funded by the mine, and the person who owns the mine is the mayor. So like it's
a company town.
It's a company town. in the purest sense of the word. And yeah, we get kind of introduced to our cavalcade of characters that I mentioned earlier. They're supposed to be young people, but man, oh man, they got some city miles on them. All of them.
I don't think they're supposed to be like college. I think they're supposed to be like right at either like probably a lot of them didn't go to college. Like they probably just went into the mine. But I think
except for TJ,
yeah,
he's got big dreams, man.
But I think that they're just supposed to be like just past college age, even though, yeah, they're getting, all the actors are getting Social Security at this point. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they really, I just looked, I'm like, how are you sitting there telling me that these are like, well, I think the bartender calls him young fella at one time. Like, no, they are not.
Well,
they are
Friday
looking
the
at their
13th
retirement right now.
Yeah. The original Friday the 13th, like the final girl, like the guy that she hangs out with in that movie, like has like bags under his eyes, and, like a huge mustache. I'm like, that guy's not a young guy, no matter how many times he has his shirt off.
Yeah, but I was like, man, this is they are very. I mean, to be fair, I don't want to be ageist or anything, but like. You can't call them young people when they quite literally look like they're 35.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I would never go be cast in a movie with a guy in his 20s because I'm not a guy in my 20s.
Well, if I was clean shaven, when I was between the ages of 20 and 25, if I was clean shaven, and it's why I always have stubble for this reason, I could have played high school.
Here's the thing. Like, yeah, you could. I can see that. I've seen you clean shaven, and even when we were in grad school, yeah. If you were clean shaven, you could absolutely. I'd say you could play senior in high school.
Maybe
I don't
that
think you could do
senior that
anything.
got held back a year. Yeah,
But yeah,
now,
you're the Matthew McConaughey in the high school.
But now it's just kind of like if I tried to play high school, even if I dyed the grays out of my temples, people would be like laughing their ass off. That guy's not a high school dude.
If you were going to be casting there now, it quite literally you would be the Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. He got held back 9 years.
Held back 9 years. Yeah. Well, I just can't pass algebra. I don't know what it is. Or I can't pass Spanish. I just don't know how to conjugate verbs, man. But yeah, so we're introduced to all these characters, and again, like the one caveat with all these characters is every one of them is fucking stupid and horny as all hell.
Young, dumb, full of cum.
Oh man. Like they really are. Every moment you see them, they're either doing one or two things. They're either drinking, talking about, banging, or talking about the dance. Like that's it.
I mean, there's not exactly a lot of growth here.
I mean, I get they're up in like, the sticks, and there's not much to do except for TJ. Yeah. TJ had big dreams, and those big dreams failed.
Nobody became a big movie star from these movies. Like sometimes I can help differentiate these characters. When there is somebody who became like super famous later, when it's like introducing Larry Fishburne in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 or Johnny Depp in the first one, or, like Kevin Bacon in Friday the 13th. I'm like, oh, well, I recognize that person. That'll help me separate their character from the rest of them, even though they have no difference in their character whatsoever.
Yeah.
When you're like introduce these characters, I'm like, they're all just like young, dumb, full, cum, drunk, and stupid. Like I'm looking now, I'm like TJ, Sarah, Axel. I'm like, I don't remember any of these characters' names. I remember their faces.
Well, let's be honest here. Like every one of these characters, I would say, with the exception of Axel, TJ, and Sarah, quite literally are there to be killed.
Yeah.
In the most fun and interesting ways. Because that's one thing I will say about this movie. They have very fun, interesting ways of killing people. Do you want to rattle off some of the ways that people die in this movie?
Oh, well,
we got our first one with his striptease and then impalement.
Oh, this movie knows where its bread and butter is. Yeah, it's like first you see like a beautiful blonde woman like getting half naked, getting her titties grabbed, and it's just like, okay, well, we know where our bread is buttered. Yeah. Well,
I gotta wonder this: how did the setup there happen? What happened? Did Did the crazed miner just like go into a bar and just pick up this woman and just said, "Hey, come back to my murder mine shaft where I'm going to show you my actual shaft"? Is that what happened?
Well, see, that's the weird thing, because clearly if he was able to sneak this woman down in the mine, it means that the space like that they end up having a party at later in the movie was completely open.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, let's go down in the mine.
And you need a second person to get down there. Like somebody has to press the button to get down there.
Don't point out the horrible flaws in this plot, Brian. But but yeah, it's it would be like if you brought a date home and you're like, yeah, this is my bedroom. Now let's go down to my unfurnished, radon-ridden basement to have sex. It's like, wow, it looks like you have a king-size bed with silk sheets. No, we're going to have sex on the radiator in the dark part of the basement.
There's a lot of rust on that radiator, so I hope you had your tetanus shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the first kill we get in this is this woman who's doing a striptease and like fondling his like oxygen like tube, which is supposed to be his dick. And she's just like, and she's just taking everything off. And at this point, you're just like, oh, okay, it's that kind of movie. And I'm like, all right, what's going to happen next? And sure enough, she gets impaled.
Yeah. Bless her heart. I mean, like, she was like, I'm going to make the best of this
weird, fucked up situation.
Black long sex party. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's really his black long sex party. And then this is when we get introduced to some of our characters. The mayor is, and the big plot with this is that the mayor and the town love Valentine's Day a lot, and they're reintroducing this Valentine's Day dance, which I guess hasn't happened in like decades.
Since the incident.
Yes, the incident. The incident. We're going to get to the incident.
There's always that catalyst.
There's always a catalyst. It's like, yes, we haven't done one of these things since all those people got murdered. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, looking at you, camera. Honestly, with this movie, you get the biggest wink, wink, nudge, nudge, looking at you, camera moment where the bartender, who I got to say, he's my favorite character of the whole fucking movie. I mean, seriously, he's my favorite character of the whole movie. It's a shame what happens to him. But yeah, he's tired of dealing with these fucking quote unquote kids, okay, who are pushing 35. And he's like, you guys are a bunch of assholes disrespecting the Valentine's Day and disrespecting Harry Warden. And you're just like, what's Harry Warden? Which I'm like, you guys live in this fucking town. You don't know who the hell that is. And so, yeah, he gives a story of Harry Warden who years ago, he got trapped in the mine because his supervisors decided to like clock out early because, there's always got to be negligence, right, John?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's always got to be negligence.
It's like prom night. It's like, oh, the kid's like scaring the other kid and he falls out the window. Yeah. And it's like, we'll never speak of this.
Yes, we'll never speak of this. Unfortunately, it comes back to bite them. So Harry gets trapped in this mine explosion because in mines, there's a lot of methane gas that builds up. And
Harry farted.
Well, yeah, let's be honest here. That's what the movie didn't tell us. But
Harry was like, I'm by myself.
Yeah. So anyway, he gets trapped in this mine with a bunch of other miners. He goes crazy because he's down in there for like, what was it? They didn't really tell you how long he was down the mine, but it's got to be a considerable amount of time. He resorts to cannibalism, eating fucking people, and he goes crazy. And as you do, right? And sure enough, the next year, because of the fact that, because you got to figure like the mayor probably was still the mayor back then, the guy who owns the mine, Mayor Henniger, probably was still the mayor because, this is one of those towns where like the mayor's there for decades, So, nothing ever happened to those supervisors who clocked out early, right? So, yeah, Harry decides to go a little nuts and decides to go get even. So he murders a whole bunch of people while the Valentine's Day dance is happening. Basically says, never do that Valentine's Day dance again, or else I'm going to be back to fucking kill you all.
Wait, a faceless killer under a mask?
Yes, I know, right?
POVs who comes back to haunt the place.
It sounds a little
the anniversary
familiar.
Of something happened to him. Yeah, I've never seen that before.
You've never seen that before. What I will say is that Harry has a very interesting way that he kills people. Do you want to talk about how he kills people? Like how he actually, what he does to them?
Oh God, what?
He cuts out their hearts, dude.
Yes,
He cuts out their hearts and he puts them into Valentine's Day candy boxes.
Yeah.
Oh, delicious.
And the beautiful police department's like, what do you think this means?
Well, you know what it reminds me of, man? It reminds me of that trailer for Thanksgiving when Michael Biehn like goes down and he licks the blood off the street and says, "It's blood, son of a bitch."
There's killing.
Yeah. That's another holiday one. It's the same basic premise as this, but yeah. So the whole thing is that why these killings start happening again is because they decide they're gonna put the dance on. Okay, and the first person who kind of gets it in the murders, I would say it was. What would you say? It's Mabel, the person who's running the dance.
Yeah. And she owns like a dry cleaner, right?
Yes, and her dry cleaner is called Madame Mabel's.
And here's what I love so much. Like I don't know why, but I get bogged down in the simplest, stupidest, unnecessary things in a movie.
It's okay.
Well, first off, I love that we do get introduced in all these movies to our ancillary characters who are there to die. The bartender, the dry cleaner. I love that she's there just smacking hearts all over her dryers because, like, in that town, if I went into to do my laundry and they're wearing hearts all over that dryer, I just would lose the spirit, you know?
I don't know if I would go into a laundromat that had a bunch of fucking hearts everywhere.
I wouldn't go into it if it didn't. I mean,
but then again,
it's Valentine's Day town.
Then again, I don't know if I'd live in Valentine Bluffs.
It sounds like something from Doug, doesn't it? Like
it does. It does. It does sound like, where's Doug Funny live? He lives in Valentine Bluffs.
Yeah.
But Mabel, she gets it because, and I love the fact that every one of these characters is like a raging alcoholic. Mabel's got like a pack full of beer.
Oh no, it's the 80s. They're just
okay.
They're actually like basically at the Betty Ford by the level that they drink, you know.
Well, I just mean like nowadays you watch a movie, everyone's got a bottle of water. Everybody in this movie literally has a 6-pack in their back pocket.
Well, see, back in the day, Brian, that's like how you came down. That's how you like slowed down. That's how people knew that you were like okay, because like it's like, oh, you were drinking like 2 bottles of Jack a day and doing a bunch of like cocaine and X. It's like, oh no, he's okay now. He's just smoking 2 packs of Marlboro and he's drinking a 12-pack of beer and just a little bit of weed. He's coming down. He's good.
I do question what Mabel's like, you know, nightlife was like then, because she had like a 6-pack on her in the laundromat as she was decorating. But anyway, yeah, she's alone, and sure enough, our miner friend comes and gets her, and the way he kills her is hilarious. Because the next day, Mabel's boyfriend, or we're not quite sure, but the chief of police comes in, okay, and you know, Chief Newbie, and he comes in, he's looking for Mabel, and he, you know, being the greatest police chief of all time, walks completely past the bloody dryer that is running. Like, I watch this, I'm just like, wait a minute. He walked right past that bloody fucking dryer.
Hey, they don't have DNA back then, Brian. They don't know.
No, but
you don't want to open it. That would
well, you know what it was, man. Like, because of the fact that Valentine's Day heart was on there, he couldn't tell the difference between arterial red and the Valentine's Day heart. You know, he just thought, oh, that's just a little red splotch in the shape of a heart. But yeah, he walks right past it and opens, and eventually walks back and finds the dryer and decides to open it up. And sure enough, Mabel pops out, nice and extra crispy. I'd say she was on permanent press.
Oh yeah, I want, you know, I really wish that there was one of those like fabric, what do they call those linen things you throw in sometimes?
Oh, fabric softener.
The fabric softener,
like the fabric sheets. Yeah,
the fabric sheets.
Well, I mean, I don't know whether or not the killer is you know, if he cares about how soft his victims are.
I will say this, dear Psychos Nation. Don't throw one of those fabric sheets for anything except your towels, because if you do it with your t-shirts, they're just going to wear and tear over time very quickly, because that is just going to scruff them up. So you just want to use that for your towels and maybe your sheets. So there's a little advice from your Uncle John.
I was going to say, this is a moment from John.
Yeah.
And moving on from there, what happened? What my favorite part with this whole discovery is that instead of the chief like saying, "Holy shit, we should alert the town because the murders are happening," he proceeds to just tell people that they're having heart attacks.
That's the thing in these movies. Yeah, it's like she had a heart attack. She died of a heart attack because we don't want to panic. It's like we can't let the town know that possible Psycho McKiller Pants has escaped, and it's because it's before the internet, so we can't just simply look it up to see if he escaped.
Well, my favorite is just like, this is a tiny ass town. Do you know what happens in tiny ass towns? If someone shits the wrong way that day, your neighbor's going to know about it.
Yeah, there's a
That's
population
just how
of
it works.
800 people,
Yeah, there's like 800 people, and you everybody knows each other. So, yeah, you're going to tell them like, "Oh, yes, Mabel died of a heart attack, even though her face was burnt to shit."
Well, her heart was attacked.
It was attacked. It was ripped out. So there's that.
Right. Are you inferring the sheriff was kind of into Mabel?
Well, yeah. Because the sheriff later gets a Valentine's Day chocolate box from Mabel. You know they were smacking in the laundromat.
Well, the thing is, I wonder if he was working up to that. He's like, she's a hell of a cook. I just hope that she's still got a little bit of snap down there. A little bit of elasticity to the vaginal wall.
You just earned our explicit badge for this episode, John. Thank you for that one. Yeah.
That's an old 70s term, though. Snapper. She got a good snapper.
Why do you sound like Jack Nicholson saying that?
Tell me, does she have a good snapper? Oh, fun on completely unnecessary sidebar. Pam Anderson has her autobiography out.
Yeah.
And she said that one time she went to the Playboy Mansion and she went into one of the bathrooms just to freshen up, and Jack Nicholson was in there having a three-way with these like two young models.
I'm not surprised.
And she was looking in the mirror, and Jack was looking over at her, and she was bending over, just doing her lipstick in the mirror. And Jack was looking at her in the mirror, and she was looking back at Jack in the mirror. And all of a sudden he just nutted, and he went up to her and went, "Thanks for that, darling."
Oh, gross. Old Hollywood's gross.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point, the mayor and the chief, they pretty much think that Harry Warden is the one who's doing this. So they call up to the mental institution, and they get the scene that honestly, I understand the chief's frustration, but at the same time, he's being kind of a dick. He's calling up the person on the other end, and whoever the assistant, whoever's running that, is looking at the records. He's like, "He's not here.
Yeah,
he's not here. He's gone. He's not here." And he's giving the runaround, but he's just being a fucking dick.
Well, what's interesting too is that it leads to the point where they kind of have to call things, and it's this is just this type of movie screenwriting 101. It's oh no, the big dance is canceled. But hey, gang, what if we all go to the break room at the mine and we still have a party?
Oh, they don't even say the break room on. It just says we're gonna party in the mine.
Yeah,
have they never seen a horror movie?
I guess not. Probably in this universe.
I would just say this is one of the biggest movie mistakes. There are a couple movie mistakes here. I'd say the first one was trying to fuck in the mine. That was our first scene. And then the second one
of a least sexy place
is trying to party in mine. Yeah, why the fuck would you want to fuck in a mine? It makes no sense to me. There's rocks down there. It's dirty. Gross.
Maybe the ball pit at Chuck E. Cheese after a toddler took a shit. That might be a less sexy place.
After hours or during hours?
During hours too.
Oh. On a Saturday or like a Wednesday?
A Wednesday at
I'd say a
3:17 at p.m.
That's
you know.
dangerous.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
So not only
territory
are there families around, but you're also in a ball pit with shit.
That's why there's no ball pits anymore in the Chuck E. Cheese, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so our cavalcade of murder victims decide to party in the mine. And this opens up the can of worms. Like, I'd say this is where we get to kind of see one of the elements of this movie, which I'm not sure if it works or not, but I understand why it's there. And it's this really bizarre love triangle between Axel, TJ, and Sarah.
Well, a big thing for this movie was that I looked up that everyone knew that one of the cast was the killer, but they never told them. They never told them which one, because they didn't want anybody, going around being the killer,
Right. So like everyone in this is pretty much acting as if they're not the killer.
So yeah, you need to create the that was weird. Ooh, that was suspicious.
I mean, I thought it was TJ for about a good minute there.
Yeah.
Because he looks like a dick. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like while watching this, I'm like, why the fuck would Sarah want to be with any of these assholes? Like Axel's a dick and TJ's a dick.
Look, there's only 900 people in town.
Well,
Brian.
that's what I'm saying. It's like, everybody else, like Hollis is pretty much taken, by Patty. But like everyone else, there's only 900 people, and it's like you've got your choices. I mean, I guess Sarah's really like got the pick of the litter here out of everybody, because she could have, the bartender, who's like 70. But yeah, like everything that Axel does is a dick move, like a over possessive jerk, And TJ, he just swoops in like, hey, yeah, I know I abandoned you a year ago. And yeah, was expecting that your life revolve around me, but now I'm back, so I'm going to take you away from your healthy relationship. So I'm like, I can't root for any of them.
Well, let's just Brian, let's do some quick math.
Okay.
Quick math. If the town has 900 people,
yes,
let's break that down into thirds. So we have 1/3 that's way too young for Sarah.
Those are children.
We have 1/3 that's way too old for Sarah. So now we're down to
geriatrics.
We're down to like 300 people. So let's say half of them are women. She only has 150 men in the dating pool,
and they all work in the mine.
Yeah, and let's be honest, at least half of those men are butt fuck ugly. So now she's down to 75 suitors. And I'm pretty sure that's like the beginning of The Bachelor's, like 75 men.
Only some of these men are missing teeth and have been exposed to methane way too long. Like, way too long.
Brian, if you were single and I gave you a catalog full of 75 women, at first you'd be like, that's a lot to pick from. But then you start narrowing it down. You're like, fuck.
You're like, no. Exposed to methane all day. I don't think that's going to work. Yeah. But no, I could not like understand her predicament, because she's just like, I've got TJ and I've got Axel, and they're the two most, normal looking mutants in the town. So I guess I got to go with one of them. And they say that word, which, this is an old movie when they say, who do you want to go with? Who are you going with? You should go with both of them.
Oh my God, you need his Letterman's jacket.
Yeah.
But I love the setup too, where everyone gets all drunk. It's like, they're like, oh my God, my favorite really horny as we went into the mine. And it's like, okay, well, now we're getting set for the third act bloodbath.
And it really is a bloodbath. But just to like finish up this, what were your thoughts? Do you think Sarah picked the right one in TJ? By the way, spoilers, she picks TJ.
It reminds me of that episode of South Park where Satan's trying to pick between Saddam and Chris.
Yes.
And if anybody's not seen that episode, like Chris is kind of like
a classic.
He's a really sensitive 90s guy, but doesn't really pleasure Satan. And Saddam rocks his world in the sack, but he's like very like absolutely like the worst person in the world.
Yeah.
And Satan just makes a choice like, I'm better off without either of you. I'm going to be alone for a while and just like sort my shit out. That's what Sarah should have done.
She should have just like moved to the next town over.
Yeah.
Just said, I'm not dealing with this shit. I got to deal with these inbred morons who breathe methane every day, knock back 6-packs on every hour, and decide that, hey, you know what a good date is? Hanging out inside the fucking mine.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, she could have had a new crop
you,
of 75.
You could have, yeah, I mean, she could have just, moved to the next town over. Or maybe they're woodsmen, There's nothing wrong with, banging in the woodshed versus banging in the mine. I don't know.
Well, it depends on whose woodshed that owns.
That's true. That's true.
Get in that shed, boy.
Yeah.
But no, she's got to get out of that town before all the guys in the mine end up going to Vietnam, getting all twisted, and then they can't shoot deer anymore.
This doesn't take place in the late 70s. It's the 80s.
Yeah, I know. It's really fucked up when they go to Nam.
And this is Canada. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, the party happens, and this is where really like all the murderings take place. You've got so many good ones in this. You've got the one guy who's making hot dogs who gets boiled alive, and his like heart cut out, and like isn't his heart like boiled in the hot dogs? And his head's in a freezer.
Which, by the way, I ain't no surgeon, but I imagine cutting out a heart, unless you're like certain characters in Mortal Kombat, isn't that simple.
No, well, you got a breastplate and everything there. Like, there's bone and shit, and he's just able to like bone and shit. And he's just able to just get it, and it's very clean.
Finish him.
Yeah,
pull the heart out.
Yeah. So like one guy dies there. You get a really good. I think this is probably one of the ones that this movie is most known for. A really good kill where a couple is like in some area of the mine trying to get it on, and the one girl is like, hey, you know what you need? And he pulls out a condom, and it's like, no, I don't want that. I want beer. Again, alcoholism. And she gets impaled through the head by like a water spout, because I guess all these miners, like when they're done, they all take like group showers and shit, which okay, cool.
Which hot.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, here's the funny thing. Like, if this movie was made in the 90s, it would have been a shower just like the one from Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah.
It would have been like, Casper Van Dien-esque bodies all over the place. They only have like a little bit of mine dust on them, and they're just all like oiled up and taking showers. That would be the shower scene if it was made in like mid 90s.
Like, oh, Casper Van Dien, why don't you love Dizzy? Yeah, by the way, Casper Van Dien, answer my fucking messages.
Yeah,
all right.
Should, dude.
Yeah, I know you saw them, you little bastard.
Well, he's gonna want to answer messages, right? Now he's really inclined to do so. But yeah, so that's another kill that happens. And while this is all going on, by the way, the party is still happening. Oh yeah, that's the best part. Nobody knows.
It's like that video, like, are we having fun? Oh, yeah. I'm bleeding from my anus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Well, now, while this is going on, while the murdering with Dave and Sylvia are happening, by the way, that's their names. I know they're just, person number one. Sylvia.
There's a name you don't get anymore.
No, you don't.
I don't think I've ever met a Sylvia.
I've never met a Sylvia. I've seen porn with
Sylvia
porn
Plath.
star names with Sylvia,
yeah.
But never have I met an actual Sylvia. But anyway, while this is happening, Hollis decides that it's a good idea. Again, this is dumb. It's a good idea to go down and hang out in the mine because Patty, his girlfriend's never seen inside the mine, because I guess it's still the 80s where I guess women aren't allowed in the mine. And I think that actually was said. Women aren't allowed in the mine.
I mean, like, I imagine anybody without clearance is probably not allowed.
No, but I really think like either Axel or TJ said women aren't allowed in the mine. And I'm just like, oh, dude.
Like, yeah, well, bitch.
Gotta love the sexism.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Hollis is kind of, begged into going into the mine, and Yeah, he takes Patty and Sarah down there, and who else goes down there? The one idiot friend that they have, I forget his name.
Other people.
Other guy. Yeah.
And I will say this. This is what separates like memorable movies in this genre from like terrible ones.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, who were the characters in Halloween? Like, oh, there was Laurie and Annie. You know, there's like Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
You know, like you got Jerry, you know, from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like you remember these people. Like I don't remember any of these characters' names. Like they were just disposable victim one.
Well,
two,
that's
three,
the problem with this is that I think the reason why you remember those characters is one, there are not a whole lot of characters in those movies to begin with, right? Like you don't have a gigantic group of friends. You have like a core group of friends of like 2 or 3. So like for the audience perspective, I can remember those. And like each one of those characters is written fairly well. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, Halloween does not have the most depth when it comes to characters. But like when we see those characters on screen, they're given an equal amount of time to shine, right? Yeah. Like they have their time to the point where we do associate with them, right? And with, I think, I really believe that since Friday the 13th came out, where you had like a large group of friends that, you know, no one really knows who they are. I couldn't tell you who the name of the campers and the camp counselors in Friday the 13th were. I know how they died, but
Kevin
I don't know.
Bacon.
Well, Kevin Bacon's the only one, yeah. But I'm saying like
that's the character's name, Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. but like I don't know who any of the other characters are. Okay? And that's the same sort of thing here. They're memorable in their antics, but none of them are given an equal amount of screen time to really like shine and leave an impression on the character, on the audience. So like that's the problem that these sorts of movies have, these slashers in the early 80s had. And like remember the Texas Chainsaw, that came out in the 70s. So it's right in the vein of these proto slashers, if you will, that were also trying to create characters that were memorable. Whereas this is more or less just like, how many bodies can I rack up and how many inventive kills can I get? Which, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to fault it for that. It has some really inventive kills. Now,
well, and that gets,
go ahead, man.
I was going to say that gets tricky too. It's like, okay, if we're going to make the exact same movie that another movie made and another movie made, like the only thing we can do is up the body count, but that also means we have to introduce all these characters and none of them are going to be memorable because instead of like 2 or 3 or 4 people, we have 12 now because we need to kill as many people as possible. Yeah. Good luck remembering their names or anything about them.
I just remember how they died. That's it. Like, unfortunately, Hollis, who's like our lovable friend, he's the lovable friend. He's trying to be the peacemaker. You know, he's also, I'd say, the oldest looking friend in the entire group.
He's 51 years old.
He's got to be 45.
Yeah.
Okay. And either that or like he really has been in the mine for a long time. Like maybe he is 25 years old, but he spent from birth to the 25th year.
The mine will age you.
He's the mine boy, okay? Because the guy literally he just looks like he's seen some shit. Okay.
Well, in one of my history books in like middle school, it showed me like a picture of like Russian teenagers in like 1921.
They look hardened.
Yeah, they're like 47. They look like they're 47, but they're like 19 years old. I'm like, oh man, you know, living in squalor and darkness and eating nothing but like stale potatoes. That'll do that to you.
Yeah.
You'll look like that, you know.
I'm just saying he kind of looks like he's lived in the mine a little bit too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gets it first with a nail gun right to the brain. And I'm going, oh no, not Hollis. Like him, I remembered. And him like, oh, he's such a good friend. Even though he's, you know, he brought them down there. He didn't have to do that.
He was
but yeah,
trying to get laid.
listen. There's no way he's getting laid in the mine with Patty, his girlfriend, and Sarah down there as well. That's her best friend. That's not happening. Okay. But anyway, this kind of causes a chain reaction in which our killer starts knocking off and killing people left and right. While this is all going on, the discovery of the dead kids in quotes, because again, remember, these are 35-year-olds, is discovered. And like the rest of the party kind of bolts. Axel and TJ decide to go down the mine because they realize, oh shit, Harry Warden's down there. And this is the moment where they decide to work together, right? They're going to put aside their love triangle differences and save Sarah.
Scooby gang this shit.
Yeah. And sure enough, it gets knocked down to just Axel, TJ, and Sarah. That other goofy character, he gets killed. I don't really remember how he got killed, but I do remember he did get killed
through violence.
Through violence. But I don't know. I don't remember that. But one thing out of this chase that I do gotta mention that this drove me fucking nuts was fucking Patty. So you remember Patty? Patty's is Halls' girlfriend.
Yeah.
The annoying friend of Sarah. So like the brunette.
Yes.
Okay. So while she's getting chased by everyone, they decide they're gonna climb a ladder that goes up, and like everyone's climbing the fucking ladder, and Patty apparently loses the ability to climb a fucking ladder.
Fight or flight, brother. Yeah.
I get that, but like, climb the fucking ladder. It wasn't even like a ladder that was like falling apart. Like I can understand if the ladder's falling apart or some shit like that. She can't fucking climb the fucking ladder. And because she can't climb the fucking ladder, they all have to go back down to the ground, in which then Harry Warden gets her right in the stomach.
Shazam.
Yeah. Shazam. Really, right in the stomach. I'm like, you should fucking climb the ladder, man. Yeah. So then we're left with just Axel and Sarah and TJ. And Axel somehow disappears into the water because apparently they decide they're going to find another way out, and they go through some water, and Axel just falls in, and we're assuming that that's Harry got him,
It's like a Resident Evil video game in the 90s when you needed to separate from the character you were with so you can get back to like a solo game.
Yeah. And sure enough, we get to the end of the movie in which TJ is attacked and by Harry, and he realizes that it's actually Axel who's behind the mask. Dun, 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 dun. And we get this weird flashback, which I gotta say, I do appreciate this movie for not spoon feeding it to me too much. Like this flashback scene you get like this moment where little boy Axel is underneath the bed, and he apparently witnessed his father, who was one of the mine supervisors that caused that explosion to occur, get killed by the real Harry Warden. Okay.
Yeah.
And that has like traumatized him. He's like covered in blood, and he's completely traumatized because he sees this shit. And that has caused him to now, like, the minute the dance is happening, he's like, oh, I gotta make sure that Harry Warden's curse actually happens. Because we find out that the real Harry Warden is dead. Been dead for a while.
we get our like Norman Bates' mother reveal. Yeah.
So while this is happening with TJ and Axel fighting, the mine caves in a little bit. TJ survives. Sarah is holding on to like Axel's arm because like the rock like literally like pierces his arm, and she rips off his whole fucking arm. His arm's gone.
127 hours, baby.
It is very much like that. Again, 80s movies were great for this shit. You never even knew the physics of it, right? Like nowadays it'd be like, well, we have to know exactly how it happened, and then we need to see it realistic. You didn't need that in the 80s. The 80s, your arms were literally held together by tissue paper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So
well,
yeah,
they probably were with the diets they had.
I mean, they really, yeah, cocaine's a hell of a drug. So yeah, the mayor and the town all come down to the mine because again, why didn't they go up that way to escape? Why do they have to go find this round robin way of escaping the fucking mine? But yeah, everyone comes in and we get the inclination that Axel survived, and it kind of sets up the movie for a sequel, which never happened because this movie failed miserably at the box office. But yeah, like Axel like screams off into the mine because the whole area is like separated by this like debris and rock and shit, and you just hear him screaming, "I love you, Sarah, my bloody Valentine," and he runs off in insanity and blood loss. And that's the end of the movie with him like laughing maniacally.
Oh yeah, well you always have to keep the door open for a sequel, but
I mean this one really does do it.
But Brian, I got one question for you.
Sure.
And it's kind of the basis for the entire movie.
Okay.
If it was a matter of negligence on being let off work that caused Harry to die, and then the Axel to see his dad get killed by Harry, what does the fucking dance have to do with anything?
Okay, so here's the reason why. Okay. So the supervisors at the mine were clocking out early to go to the Valentine's Day dance.
Son of a bitch, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they had to go get
that was
their hair done.
Think of this. Okay, let's get back to this here.
Yeah.
This is the same as Friday the 13th. Why did Jason Voorhees drown? Okay, not die because he never dies. Why did he drown? Because of sexy time. So there's something else happening. So yeah, the dance again. Everyone in Valentine's Bluff are horned up crazy people because every one of them wants to get this dance to bang. That's literally it. Okay. They could have replaced Valentine's dance with, Roman orgy. We got to clock out early to go to the orgy. Like
that could have been town sock hop. Yeah,
town sock hop. But the point is like there was something else that they had to do that caused them to be negligent. So that's why. Which I go back to like, why would Axel not like try to kill TJ or the mayor or anybody else associated with the actual mine that led to Harry like trying to kill? Like that's what I don't quite understand.
Because
like,
then we can't see young boobs.
I know that, but I'm just saying there's so many other people that Axel could have targeted. He chose not to. Like TJ right off the spot is someone be like, why did you not try to kill him first? You already have in your uninsanity life, love triangle going on between him. Like, why would you not? And ultimately, the reason why it's not there is because, as you mentioned, John, when they were filming this movie, they specifically didn't tell anyone who was the actual killer. So like even the actors didn't know who was going to be the killer. Sure as hell wasn't going to be Patty or Hollis, because they did. But yeah, that was one. Now, another thing I do want to mention before we wrap this episode up is how difficult it was to film this movie. Did you know they filmed in real mines for this one?
That seems, one of the thing is when you don't have the budget to create a mine set, you got to shoot in a real mine, I guess, right?
Well, they filmed this thing in two mines. They considered two mines, but they actually filmed in real mines. And
how did they get electricity down there?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like these were real mines.
Yeah.
So there were already like light bulbs and shit down there.
Yeah.
But the thing is they were dealing with real methane. And let's remember folks, that this is in 1980 or 79, late 79, 80. So that means that they're using film lights that have real like filaments that could catch fire, and methane is extremely flammable. So like there were
Brian, I sadly didn't even think of that.
I question you, but yes,
they could have died.
They could have lit the
Horrible
whole place
death.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like they had to carefully plan the lighting because of the methane levels. I believe they had to actually evacuate the space a couple times because it got too bad. They had to choose different lenses and film stock because ultimately they had to go with extremely low lighting.
Too bad they didn't have HDMIs back then.
I mean, that's the thing. Imagine if they had LED lights.
Or HDMI. What the fuck am I saying?
HDMIs. What are you talking about?
Blah 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 blah. Yeah, LED lights.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
HDMI is a plug. Sorry.
Yeah, but like they, it was a real mine with real methane and real danger. Now, nowadays you couldn't do this because of, things like insurance. That right there.
Brian, do you know what they did for the 09 movie?
What?
No, I'm asking if you know. Like,
Oh, do I know?
Did they shoot on a set or?
I mean, I think they shot it at 31st Street Studios. There's portions of it.
And where is that for all of our non-Pittsburgh?
All right, for our non-Pittsburgh people, that's where is it? 31st Street Bridge area. So like the Strip area.
So it's just like a sound studio area.
Yeah, it's a large sound studio. I think they shot part of it there. Which, by the way, again, I know a couple people who were in that movie. John, do you know a couple people who were in that movie?
I knew a couple of people that worked on it. Like I knew a couple of grips.
So I know the guy who played Harry Warden in the remake.
That's pretty tight.
Richard John Walters. I know him. He's a friend of a friend. Our mutual friend Jason Sauer is a friend of his. So yeah, I got to meet him one time, and nice guy. And like, if you meet him, you're like, oh yeah, that's why you're Harry Warden, also known as the Miner, because he's a big dude. But really nice, and that's kind of his big claim to fame is playing that character. The remake, it's been so long since I've seen it, so I really can't speak too much of it. I don't think it was hated as much as most remakes go, because it kind of knew what it was.
Well, and also I don't think there was really that deep a love for the original, like Friday or Halloween or Nightmare, or Yeah.
I just say like this is one of those ones that it's definitely, I think, more in the cult rather than pure like horror.
Oh yeah, this movie lived and died on video rentals.
Yes. Yeah. This is, these types of movies, like I think people reach for this one over what I would consider one of the worst Valentine's Day horror movies, and that is the atrocious Valentine, which I almost thought we were going to do that episode.
Oh, maybe next year. I mean,
that movie, folks.
That movie's hilarious, and how
it's so bad.
it is.
With his nose bleeding cherub face.
Hey, you know what? Denise Richards has maybe never looked more like, Roll Tide. I don't know.
Wild Things.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say. Wild Things.
Brian and I just had our youth just had a boner. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Christmas Jones.
Christmas. I forgot that was her name.
They always say Christmas comes earlier every year.
Oh God! One of these days we got to do one of those Bond movies, because I don't think we've done any James Bond movies. But
it'd be interesting if we did the whole series, but we did them in increments of every 3 months. So in the next 15 years, we'd be done.
Well, I think it'd be one of those things where we'd have to have a segment on what ridiculous sexist thing was said in this movie. And it's Christmas Jones.
Well, in preparation for my next YouTube video.
Oh, I was gonna say you talked to me about this.
Yeah, You Only Live Twice, where they make James Bond into an Asian man, a giant drunken Scottishman into an Asian man. Is that at the beginning of the movie? I'm like, well, maybe that's the only offensive thing in the movie, and it opens up with a scene where James Bond is in bed with a Chinese woman, actually, and he goes, "How come Chinese girls taste different than all other women?"
Yeah,
and she's like, well, sometimes you want Peking duck, and other times you want lasagna. And he's like, no, that's not it. And I'm like, oh my God, God, it's 1967. We're all doomed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unforgivable on so many levels.
It's like that's the first line of the movie.
That's why, like, I imagine people like skip that one.
Yeah.
They skip that one. Although, to be perfectly honest, they're all pretty bad when it comes to looking at movies for, no sexism, things like that.
It's white
Modern
male,
ones aren't as bad, but
no. But it's white male fantasy. It's like, where can a white male go? And then what stereotypes can we like? James Bond's in Africa, James Bond's in Japan, James Bond's in Korea, or Costa Rica,
Yeah, I still think my favorite still is The Man with the Golden Gun. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, really?
Just because of Christopher Lee, man. It's Dracula as a villain, but he's not Dracula.
I just love that movie because it gave you the golden gun and multiplayer Bond.
Ah, yes.
What happened? Wait, what happened? What were we talking about?
Well, we were talking about My Bloody Valentine.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think we got to the end of the episode.
And I think you and I were just having a friend conversation.
We were having a friend conversation.
over the episode.
Well, here's the thing. If people lasted this long and they got to like 59 minutes and 20 seconds, good for them. I'm glad. But yeah, they get to hear some of the friend conversation. So, John, just to wrap us up here, final thoughts on My Bloody Valentine. What were your final thoughts on this one?
Even more so than the movie, because while this is some of my garbage entertainment, we all have it. I love professional wrestling. I love slasher movies. And I love cheap exploitation movies. Like, that's kind of my jam. In terms of like my decadent viewing. I love that more than any particular thing about this movie. I love that the slasher genre decided after Halloween came out, and it was supposed to be like the babysitter murders. It was like, no, name it Halloween, then we can market it and bring it out in October. And John Carpenter's like, whatever, man.
Whatever, man. I'm gonna make my own movies.
Yeah. But after that came out, it's like Friday the 13th, April Fool's Day, My Bloody Valentine, the Happy Birthday to You, New Year's Evil. It's like, if anybody wonders why, why is it that we do like all of these horror movies for every holiday? First off, it's fun because it's ironic. But secondly, a horror genre is the only one that hits every fucking holiday every fucking time.
I don't know. Like in the 2000s, you did have that string of romantic comedies that tried to do the same thing, and it failed miserably.
There was like a Love Actually that came out.
Yes,
I think it was literally called Valentine's Day.
Well, but yeah. There was
Valentine's Day. Yeah.
It was like Valentine's Day, and then they had one called like New Year's Eve or some shit. Like they did these. They tried to pull from the playbook that really only works for horror movies. Of let's make a movie around a fucking holiday. It doesn't work for these other genres. It really doesn't. I can't imagine making a comedy called Valentine's Day. Oh, what sort of wacky shit's going to happen on Valentine's Day? It doesn't work. And it doesn't work for dramas. It doesn't work for romantic comedies. It really only works for cheap horror movies. Right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. Good final thoughts. My final thoughts are, don't think too deep in this movie.
Too deep in the mind.
Too deep in the mind, asshole. If you're looking for, as John mentioned, a very, I'd say, decent cult film that's got pretty much everything you need in a cheap, fun horror movie. So I don't think there's nudity in this one at all.
No, I mean they missed their window
it.
Where like he was like fondling like the boobs at the beginning of the bra, but we didn't get
we never got it.
So it's close up macro lens of the titties. No, didn't happen.
No, so I mean it's pretty much got everything you want in a cheap horror movie. Really awesome blood and gore. Like some of the, I'd say this movie has, some of the best special effects makeup for a slasher film.
Well, Brian, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like with the version we watch is it's the
unrated one, right?
No, it's not the unrated one because it was so cut to shit that I know somebody who recently ordered like the 4K or the 4K Blu-ray or whatever. Yeah, to like get the stuff that was like cut out of this one.
Yeah. Because the MPAA lost their shit. But my point is just like this has some really inventive special effects makeup done for its time. You know, they didn't have a massive budget. They didn't have Tom Savini. They didn't have any of that. They really were doing, you know, the best they could. And you can tell that the budget went into that. You know, they had a great location. I'll be a dangerous one that probably could have killed them. But they had a great location. They had actors that were okay. I mean, they're not terrible. I'd say they're probably more realistic than other cliched actors, but at the same time, like, as I mentioned, they're all kind of morons. All of them. But they're doing their best, you know? So it's a fun movie. It's a fun, cheap film. It's a good one to put on if you're with your loved one on Valentine's Day and they happen to love horror movies. This is an excellent one to put on. And, of course, have your, you know, 6-pack of beer that's just there for, like, you know, 5 minutes because you got to get in the spirit of the movie, right? Of alcoholism. It's a good movie.
And your menthols. Yeah.
And your menthols. Yes, you have to have your menthols. Menthol. Yeah, that should be a fun, like, theme of My Bloody Valentine Valentine's Day party. That would be a fun one. If you ever do like a themed like party, John, you should definitely do that. Everyone comes up dressed like Harry Warden and we all have to figure out who actually is the killer at the party.
Oh, yeah, it's one of those like murder mysteries. Yeah.
But somebody is Harry Warden. We don't know who it is.
And everybody chain smokes, eats salted meat, and drinks the cheapest beer on the planet.
Yeah.
Old German.
Oh, awesome episode. Happy Valentine's Day, John.
Happy Valentine's Day to you, sir.
It's late.
And to all you lovers out there, happy Valentine's Day. And if Valentine's Day ain't your kick, then fuck Valentine's Day. You know, we welcome all.
We welcome all, including self-love, which that's okay too.
Yeah, masturbate the living fuck out of yourself this Valentine. And also, if you're asexual, you're in Psychos Nation too. You don't have to do any
everybody.
Of that
everybody. Yeah. We love all of you. Yeah. John, where can they find you at on the internet?
In the cockles of your heart, baby.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and of course J-Dub's Video Nasties. Of course, the Mrs. Doubtfire video is out, and soon I will have a video on You Only Live Twice, as I mentioned earlier in the episode.
Nice. Very cool. You can find me at Brian Connington on Twitter. I also run the Psycho Show Facebook page, as well as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the TikToks. I haven't posted any TikToks recently, but I probably will because of this episode. So check that out at Cinema Psycho Show. We also are on Discord. I gotta keep pimping the Discord channel. Okay, if you love what we're talking about, or maybe you want to get with us and you want to say, hey, Brian, John, can you expand a little bit more about, you know, Harry Warden, or expand a little bit more on, you know, the alcoholism and horned up nature of the citizens of Valentine Bluff? Can we talk about that a bit more? Guess what? Our Discord channel is just for that. Okay. So get on the Discord channel. The link for it is going to be in the show notes of this episode. So check it out. Talk with us. Let us know what movies you want us to cover. That's the thing. Like, John and I could pull movies out of our asses, but like, we want to do ones that you guys want. So check out the Discord channel, join it, talk with us, let us know your thoughts on these movies, and that link will be in the show notes. If you want to do the old-fashioned way, you can email us through our link at cinemapsychoshow.com. And as always, follow us, subscribe to us wherever you listen to audio, and we will see you next time.
Well, most certainly we can never do another one of these exploitation movies on a holiday. Oh, by the way, Brian, when do you want to record Leprechaun 3 for St. Patrick's Day?